Turned on now.
Hey, Ted. We were just talking about you. Oh, always. Absolutely.
Alrighty.
So there's no minutes to be adopted. Agenda?
Yeah. Been having lots of problems with
Tim's going to get us.
I have the special closed.
Good morning and welcome to the special open meeting of Vesuvius Town Council Thursday, June 24th at 09:02. This meeting was a special meeting and it was called to deal with a couple of minor items. Well, not so minor items, I won't say that. To deal with a couple of bylaw items, and the number one, first item would be bylaw number 1274, 2010, and municipal ticket information system amendment bylaw number 1214.08, 2010 for adoption. This bylaw and the MTI changes are the result of some information that coming forward in previous hearings on the June 21st regular open meeting of council. The first three readings were given to both the off-street public parking regulation bylaw number 1274, 2010, and the MTI information system amendment bylaw number 1214, 2010. Bylaw 1274 provides for regulating and controlling parking in public parking lots, sets a two-hour limit for parking in the public parking lot located at 8502 74th Avenue. This would be behind the Home Hardware. And the second part of it, and it permits boat trailer parking in the boat trailer parking lot located at 6901 Main Street. Bylaw 121408 sets the fines associated with non-compliance of the bylaw. So what we're doing is restricting the public parking lot behind Home Hardware to 2-hour parking. And that comes as a result of the demand being made by the public, and we just have to offer that up for the convenience of the business people downtown to attract their clients. Right now it's being used for day-long parking, and we are restricting that. And the second part of that bylaw, Mr. Cunningham, do you have that? That would be dealing with the boat trailer regulations?
I don't have any.
Okay. Council, is there some information that I can bring forward on that?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I think basically the restrictions we're putting there are to ensure that no one parks anything there except a boat trailer, and also that the time limit of 7 days is in effect unless someone gets a free permit for an extended period of time.
Okay, thank you.
We did have some problems about vehicles other than boat trailers being parked there, and some recreational vehicles being offered for sale on that. And there are already businesses that cater to people who have storage needs for their RVs and other vehicles.
Right. So just to for further clarification on that, it is the seven-day limit for people to park their boat trailers there, and there will be no other trailers or vehicles parked there. So your fifth wheel and your travel trailer and some of the trailers that are there now, if we pass this bylaw today, that will be a ticketable offense. I'm sure that we will be allowing a period of time for people to remove their equipment from that lot, but this will be a ticketable offense as of passing this bylaw today. Is that correct? Thank you very much. Further input. Councillor Rhodes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to perhaps ask staff if there was any knowledge about the logic behind the 7-day restriction.
Councillor Chadsey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's my understanding that that this was a discussion that we had with the CAO, who is at a meeting right now out of town, and also the corporate officer. It's my understanding that what was happening is this boat trailer parking lot was set up by council to deal with the boat trailer that were being parked all along our main street and side streets. And resort municipality money was used to set up this parking lot for them, and it was a huge success last year. What we found, though, at the start of this year, that people were putting in their RVs and throwing for sale signs on them, and other people were using it as a storage lot, and that was not the intent, and hopefully should never be the intent. And so for that reason, staff has suggested that council pass a bylaw limiting the parking of the trailers. It was 7 days was picked. It was probably an arbitrary amount, and it's based on the average stay of a tourist in town, I would suspect. If they're longer than the 7 days, they can simply come into the town office, and we'll issue them a permit, and they can just hang it off their trailer. It's a shame that we have to do this. I know that not a lot, but several residents have been upset at this heavy-handedness. But this is not a taxpayer dollar initiative. This is tourism dollars. And the benefit to the whole town is that we get, as I understand it, several kilometers of parking again available. And so I believe the 7 days was arbitrary. I don't have a problem with it. It's very easy. The town office is quite visible. I'm sure that most tourists in town can find it. And they can just hang a permit off. But what it will prevent is the lot being used as a storage facility and also as a place to buy and sell. So,
thank you, Councillor Chadsey, and I concur with that. I think the 7 days, again, it is an arbitrary number, but at least it has some protection for the lot being not used properly. So, is there any Councillor Cronmiller, please?
It's just a question for clarification, and I don't have my computer up, so maybe you can help me out, Councillor Chadsey. For storage of boat trailers, does it state about storage of boat trailers with a boat on it? It came to my mind that we aren't prohibiting boats on a trailer parked in it, are we?
Not to my knowledge, no, because we have people in transit that we have, first the fence compound and then that so-called overflow compound. And the fence one is locked, and we have the one right beside it, and people could be leaving in the morning or coming in at night.
The other thing I was thinking was that somebody's here for a week, they may not leave their boat in the water, they may take it in and out every day and leave the trailer and boat there overnight, so I'm just making sure that I just recollect that part.
Yeah, I think it's both with boat and without boat. Now, so there's a recommended resolution there that off-street public parking regulation bylaw number 1274 2010 and municipal ticket information system amendment bylaw number 1214.08 2010 be adopted. Do I have that motion? Councillor Cronmiller
I'll move adoption.
and Councillor Ryan. Any further discussion? We had a lot of discussion before we adopted the motion, but Councillor Ryan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have two questions, and they might have bearing on this. We may want to make a slight amendment to our motion. And the questions are these. We do have signage at the moment, but the signage doesn't contemplate this, and I think it is important that each of the areas at the boat launch as well as at the parking area be properly signed with the restrictions that we're imposing. And to that end, I'm wondering how long it will take staff to make those changes, and whether we should put a date on here and give a grace period to say, for example, that this will go into effect on whatever, the 30th of June or something like that, in order to enable signage to be adapted to what our bylaw is now requiring.
I think those are good points. I would prefer to entertain them as information, as under advisement to staff. I believe if we were going to make an amendment now, we're going back to second reading. And I don't want to see that happen. One of the reasons that this is coming forward today is to try to get this in place for July 1st. For the start of our tourist season is why we're trying to do this. So if we amend it, I think we have to go back, because this is final reading. Can you help me on that, Ms. Martineau?
We're not really changing the bylaw. We're simply delaying the implementation, as I understand it. That's what I was proposing. That okay.
Thank you. Councillor Cronmiller.
And just for the added information, it was in the Penticton Herald this morning, a big article about it, so if we
Okay.
adopt it today, I'm sure that plenty people are aware already.
So now,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
so we're saying that we have the press ahead of the actual event.
Well, they didn't give it final adoption, but
Okay.
they gave a write-up about it that was a little bit extensive.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. So what that means, folks, is only boat trailers in our boat trailer parking lot over on Main Street in East. Next item of business would be Lions Park, and this is coming up for second reading. I'm sure Mr. Cunningham can give us a bit of a position on this coming forward from second reading. This is the town wishes to enter into a public-private agreement with the City of Shoreline Developments to construct a marina at Lions Park. Property is zoned as Parks and Recreation. However, the permitted uses of the property do not allow for a marina. Water zoning bylaw included provisions to add a site-specific permitted use to the parkland to allow for a marina. However, on April 16, 2010, Council passed a resolution to abandon the bylaw. Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1085.82 has been prepared to add the site-specific permitted use of marina to the zoning of the parkland property at Lions Park. And there's a recommendation here, considering the information contained in this report, staff recommends that Council give first reading to Zoning Amendment Bylaw 1085 public hearing be scheduled for Tuesday, May the 18th, which happened. And now we are looking at moving this forward from that public information meeting, and it has first reading, went to public information meeting, and now we are proceeding with second reading. Mr. Cunningham?
Good morning, Mayor and Council. A couple of changes have been made for second reading as compared with first reading, which are responses to concerns which were raised at the public hearing and the public information meeting. The most important change is that the site description within Lot 7B has elaborated with the additional wording to include in the immediate area surrounding Lions Park Lagoon. The second thing which I would like to draw your attention to is that we have included, for clarity and information, existing definition of a marina that is in our zoning bylaw. And that reads as follows. A marina is defined as the use of buildings, land, or surface of the water for the sale and or rental of water sports equipment, boats, docking berths, marine supplies, and may include the sale of petroleum products. That's the definition we have in our.
Thank you. Council, please. Councilor Ryan.
I would move the second reading of this bylaw as amended, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Cronmiller.
I'll second it.
Discussion, please. Councilor Chadsey.
I'm sorry, I do have a few questions, if that's okay. The first question I have is, I'm glad to see that the definition of the marina is included. My questions are, in the future, should the definition in the zoning bylaw of a marina change, will it automatically change in this particular bylaw?
Correct.
Okay. And my second question is that the definition says the use of buildings, land, or surface for the sale and or rental of water equipment, boats, etc. And nowhere does it say simply for the berthing or the storage. Is that implied, or should that be in there? Because our purpose is not strictly to have it for sale and rental.
I would say that that would be implied under the common sense of the term marina.
Okay. My other question is second reading. Can you tell me why we opted to go for second reading rather than amending first reading? And I'll tell you the reason for my question is this is one of the bylaws that's really has held the public's attention. And traditionally, we give first reading and then a public hearing, and then we go to second and third. And although I understand why we're doing second reading here, the public may not understand why on a bylaw that is so talked about that we would choose that one to hold a special meeting to give it second reading. So is there a reason why, as opposed to just amending the first reading?
I'm not sure of the precise reason. I was advised yesterday or 2 days ago by the CEO that wished to proceed in this manner, and so we made the necessary changes as quickly as we could. I was away from the office of yesterday, so I'm sorry I can't acquaint you precisely.
Council, further? I'm having a little bit of trouble with this myself, and I guess, so one of the questions would be the fuel part of it that's mentioned in there as part of the description of marina. Can that be taken out?
It could. I think if you wish to proceed in that manner, you perhaps wish to seek some advice from the Waterfront Steering Committee. But certainly we could make amendments to the bylaw to the effect that the overall definition would stay with some additional wording, except as limited by some other provisions of the bylaw, and then you would include specific definition space for application. So it could be done.
And I guess in my mind, it's difficult. I have to keep separating what we're actually doing here. Is we're doing with the adding the one word marina into the use, and you know, it gets into the bigger picture of you know, first phase, second phase of the whole waterfront proposal, and I have to work hard to not get them mixed in together. But so, okay, that would be the fuel, and what about the location? Again, we're adding the location would be into the whole next step of the marina itself, and that would be the specifics of it, where the waterfront marina would be. Is that right?
Yeah, there was concerns raised, which I heard that lot 763 is quite a large legal parcel, and it extends further up along the shoreline from Lions Bay Lagoon. So the concerns were that perhaps the location could change. Instead of being around the lagoon, it could be further north than that in what is a public swimming area. So this tighter definition added for public comfort. So it stays very specific. Immediate areas surrounding Lions Park Lagoon. That would preclude location north of.
Okay, now, would it make sense to make that more specific, like to have a survey of the land and, I mean, we're not talking about a subdivision, but a survey of the land so that you could have actual legal descriptor of where that went?
That could be done. Obviously, wish to avoid that because there's costs involved. We'd also have to settle very specific right now as the extent of the marina. I know that's still some studies going on. We approvals from federal agents. That certainly could be done.
But it wouldn't, I mean, I'm not talking about a registered lot. I'm talking about getting a surveyor to survey the lot, and you've got the pins. It's a survey. I mean, I'm not talking about dividing lot 763 because that would be just a huge job. But you could make reference to the survey points.
I'm not sure legally how that could be done. Obviously, one possibility, but we've never done this before, would add a site plan into the bylaw, but we have other piece of that exists.
Okay. I have one more, Mr. Cunningham. Where does parking come into this? Not part of the marina? I mean, marina, isn't this where parking rears its head normally when we get uses in bylaws?
Yeah, the staging area discussed with accessory.
But wouldn't this be the point where we link slips to slots? As in boat slips to parking stalls? Like one boat slip would demand one parking stall, or whatever that number is. Well, 0.7 or however that comes down. Is this not when we would be doing this?
These are not permanent parking spaces. They're for staging. And somebody or launch would go away. So it's not a typical parking situation. Obviously, there's some correlation in the kind of activity that's expected in the arena, staging areas.
Okay. And I'm not trying to put you on the gun with, but those are good answers, and I'm thanking you for it. And I guess, I mean, it's council's football, but when I'm looking at this now, I'm not comfortable dealing with this today. And going back to what Councillor Chadsey said, I don't think this should be being dealt with. I mean, the dialogue we're having is good because it's going to allow us to go back, but I don't know that this should be being done. I don't like the optics of this being done in a special open meeting. So, Councillor Rhodes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have three things I'd like to comment on. First one being, I really have no understanding of why we're discussing this today at all. You set up agendas and you have meetings for specific purposes. This is way too premature in my mind. We have another event happening shortly that's going to help us have a better understanding of how our residents feel about it. That would be our public hearing that we're having at the Sonora Center. I don't feel comfortable at all discussing it, but now that we have this opportunity, my final 2 points are, number one, with the sale of petroleum products that's being associated with the marina. I have a serious problem with that. I don't like the idea at all, but I guess we all have to live in the real world once in a while. And we have 2 facilities right now that sell fuel. Not to suggest anything, but they are aged facilities. I could see lakefront legislation changing to change what happens at those 2 facilities. And you know, a lake that is part of a heavy resort area that's frequented by tourists, and there's a lot of boats on the water, the harsh reality is that you have to have a fuel facility. I mean, it would be counterproductive not to have one. So in my mind, here's an opportunity for us to put a fuel facility at a public marina that's right and proper and you know, is sensitive to our environment and that kind of thing. I'm kind of comfortable with leaving that in the definition because we can do it the right way, if there is such a thing. Third thing I'd like to comment on Lions Park, and hopefully we can set the record straight, and it's never my job or any other councillor's job to speak for everybody, but we are investing money in that park. We're reconditioning a lot of the stuff that's in there for use by children. I believe that we're spending a sizable amount of money on it. For my part, there's never been any mandate or anything struck to influence the shutdown or the movement or resizing of that park. That park is going to stay the way it is, and as a matter of fact, be improved considerably by taxpayer money, and very shortly I believe the equipment is in town, scheduled for installation in there. And I would have to concur with what Mayor Wells says. I'd like to see a line of whether it be a property surveyed line, but a clear definition of where the marina is going to begin and end. And that really, in my mind, is the reason why I'm feeling really uncomfortable with discussing this second reading today. We need way more information. We need to know more about how the public feels about it. And I'm not sure whether we can delay this today or what has to be done, but I'm certainly in favor of holding off on any decision making with that.
Thanks, Councillor Rhodes. Ms. Martineau, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to address a couple of things when Councillor Tragic was talking about earlier in regards to why we were doing second reading rather than first. Okay, because a public hearing has to take place between first and third, although typically we always do first and then we'll do it and third after. But you don't have to do it that way. You could do like a first and second, have your public hearing, and then third. But because we have another public hearing coming up, that's why we're giving it second. It really doesn't make a difference whether we were amending first and giving it first and second reading now, or if we just give it second reading as amended. So there's really no difference between the two. So it would be the same thing. And then in regards to why we're having the special meeting today, is because we want to change the bylaw to sort of define where the marina is going to take place. And with a public hearing, we have to do that before the public hearing because there's no new information that could come after the public hearing. So by changing that after a public hearing, we'd have to then have another public hearing. So that's why we're having this special meeting now, is so that we can amend the bylaw, define like those two clarifications that we wanted to make to the bylaw, so that when we go to public hearing, the public has that information and there'd be no new information or changes after the public hearing.
No, yeah, thank you. That makes a lot of sense as to the order that things are happening in. Councillor Chadsey, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. My concern was that we were doing it at second reading and not amending first reading. I think most of us understand the process and why we're doing it, but I'm not sure that the general public will. They don't really understand first reading, second, third, etc. I know a lot of communities always give first and second and then go to public hearing. Traditionally, we have not. And I do not want the public to perceive that by us giving it second reading, we are moving it ahead in advance of a public hearing where that purpose is to receive input. So I recognize that we're not. My concern is the public may not see it that way.
And again, that's correct. And this second reading now is allowing us to bring in both that site with the immediate area and the fueling change. Is that right? That's the changes that we're bringing forward?
The definition.
Okay, and then the location, we are including immediate area, and that wasn't in the first reading? Okay, that's an addition. Okay, thank you. Councillor Ryan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciated the clarification from Ms. Martineau and also the question from Councillor Chadsey, because when I moved this, I felt that we were, in fact, responding to public input, and I thought that was a good thing. I didn't appreciate the nuance between the first and second reading and so on. So, and you know, coming as it did within about, 48 hours or so of our last meeting, there is always a concern that, you know, somehow we're slipping things through, which we are not. So I'm comforted at that, because I think it is important that we've responded by more clearly and precisely identifying the area of concern, and also of including the definition of marina. What Councillor Rhodes said is a good point, that it gives us an opportunity to do things right and to do things well in light of current requirements. On the other hand, there still is, in my mind, a concern about the question of the fueling and whether it should be there, and I think I feel it's a little bit premature. I learned the other day from a long discussion we had that we can change these bylaws rather easily, although there is a process, but we can change them. And so I would like to suggest, and I will, I'm prepared to amend it to this effect, that we include in this, for the purposes of this bylaw, marina is defined as, and we simply define it and put a period after marine supplies. And we can always, as I understand it from our previous discussions, we can always at some point bring this forward again and say, and add that last clause. So if that would, you know, I think that I would feel better with that, and so I think I will, if you'll entertain a amendment to this, as we've moved it, that I would say, for purposes of this bylaw, marina is defined as, and then pick it up, the use of boats, use of buildings, land, etc., and put a period after marine supplies.
Okay, taking that as an amendment.
As an amendment to the
Okay.
motion.
Do we have a seconder? First off, first off, I'd have to go to the mover and seconder to accept that as being friendly. I don't know that it is. So that was yourself, Councillor Ryan,
Yes,
amending that
yes.
motion.
And my,
My,
Okay.
Councillor Cronmiller is the seconder of the original.
Are you approving the amendment?
I'll put it on the floor, sure.
Okay, okay. Okay, so that is, and I'm not gonna rule on, it may include the sale of petroleum products, because that's fairly soft language, and may include. So I think that would fall under the scope of a friendly amendment. Okay, Councillor Chadsey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that we're webcasting worldwide, and my back is sore, but that's not why I'm grumpy. I understand what Councillor Ryan is attempting to do. However, I'm not sure that this is the time. I think that we owe it to the public to go through a public hearing before we decide what we're going to remove and what we're going to keep. This purpose of today's meeting is to add the definition to the bylaw so that everyone is on common ground. They don't have to phone a department and say, well, you have a bylaw that talks about a marina, but what is a marina? And I think that following the public hearing, if it appears that the council is reluctant to have the possibility of petroleum products, I think that's when we can deal with it. But I am reluctant to deal with it in advance of a public hearing. That is the definition, and that's what I think we should present to the public.
Okay. So we're now talking to the amendment. Thank you. Councillor Cronmiller.
Just to clear for me, you're saying then that the amendment is an amendment. It's not a friendly amendment, leaving it in there, and
Okay, it's amendment, right.
so it's a separate entity we're going to vote on. We're not
We're
going to
vote on, nope,
We're not going to vote on it as a
Nope.
friendly amendment, and it's all in there.
nope.
Okay.
Separate amendment.
Yeah,
Okay, then
supplementary
Yeah,
amendment.
okay.
So this will come, we'll be voting on that first. Is there any further discussion? Okay, so now we have the amendment to exclude, may include the sale of petroleum products, would be removed from this. Now our procedural process on this, we're at second reading. This would still go through as an okay change going into the public hearing, just like the addition of a more specific site location that we started out with. Okay, so we're fine heading into the public hearing. Any further discussion on the amendment? Hearing none. All in favor of the amendment? Opposed? Amendment is defeated. Nice little 3-2 vote. Okay. Now on the amendment itself, to give this second reading, any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. That is the 2 items of business that we had to do. Looking for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Chadsey, Councillor Rhodes, all in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.